Are you a perfectionist? Are you trying to control every little detail and every aspect to every possible outcome with anything you are trying to do? Because your fear of failure is just so debilitating that's causing you to not even take one step forward? Here's your short answer. That's why you are procrastinating. That's the reason behind your procrastination. But that's just the beginning. That's just the surface. Because all that matters is that you dive deep on it. Everyone could know this. Everyone could have possibly heard this several times before. But unless you shine the light on why you are really procrastinating, then it will continue to have power over you. Then it will continue to be debilitating. And that is because you are setting such ridiculous expectations for yourself. Think about that math problem or that science problem that seemed so terrifying before you understood its base concept, before you understood the concept in general in that part of the course. But after a few days or after a few weeks, once you understood that base concept, it started seeming so doable, so possible, so easy. You started seeing the light, you started seeing a way out rather than just being completely debilitated and terrified, but you did not believe that you could even make it through this course. And now you think that it's so easy, I'll just easily pass through this course. That is exactly why it's important to shine the light on something. That's why it's important to understand something to its core before you try to address it. Otherwise, it's just going to be a momentary relief or a momentary way out. You want to know how much value you're putting in that thing? Do you want to really understand the expectations you're setting for yourself? Because that's the only reason. If you set expectations that you could meet, then it will be easy you won't need to procrastinate. You're overthinking everything. You want to know how much value you actually put in that thing that you are procrastinating? Let me tell you something. Procrastination is actually a byproduct of stress. Procrastination is that freeze part from the survival reaction to stress of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So you're making it a survival concept, a concept of surviving. That's how much value, that's how much power you're giving to it. And when are you actually in those fight, flight, freeze, or fawn situations, survival reaction to your stress, is when you're in a life-threatening situation, when you're in a threatening situation of any form. So think about it for a moment here. Is it actually that threatening? Is it actually that threatening if you do not make a perfect job out of it? Is it really that threatening if someone doesn't like your work? Matter of fact, studies show that most aspiring content creators don't go ahead and post their first video due to their fear of failure, due to their perfectionism. They care too deeply, they care too much that they let it become a survival aspect about how are people going to think about this. How good or bad is it gonna come out? They let this dictate their next action. And what happens when you put such a threatening aspect to the thing that you're trying to achieve, is that you take all of the power of creation from it. When you're in survival, it's impossible to create. When you're in survival, all your energy goes towards survival. That's what you're putting attention to. That's what you're giving attention and simultaneously your energy and power over you. That's what basically survival is. That's what happens when your survival instinct kicks in. And that's there for a reason. Sometimes it's good, think of our ancestors since prehistoric times. They had to hunt, and when the survival instinct kicked in, they had to either fight or flight. They had to quickly analyze the situation they're in and know what the best step to take in that situation, but are you really in that situation? And even if you're in some form of a threatening situation, say it's threatening your peace of mind even, or it's threatening your safety, it's threatening your security, it's threatening your future or your vision of your future, even if you take that power from it, if you take your attention of it, you're going to be able to much easier and affluently deal with it, rather than letting it just tuck you in bed the whole day and prevent you from taking any step forward. That's what happens when you take your value back from it. That's what happens when you realize it's not that worthy. It does not really hold that much value. So what am I supposed to do with all of this information, you might be asking? I've already heard this several times before. First of all, hearing is not the same as understanding and knowing. I might as well go as far back as your childhood and tell you that this perfectionism, that this fear of failure, that this controlling aspect stems back from a dysfunctional childhood, from dysfunctional upbringing, and it would still matter to you dealing with it, to you healing that part of yourself and actually getting over your procrastination and actually being able to take that step forward. Because yes, procrastination, your fear of failure, your perfectionism stems from highly judgmental and highly critical parents or any form of authoritarian figure in your life at that point when you were just a very young child, easily manipulable. You know, you don't make sense out of things by yourself, and whatever you absorb from an authoritarian figure, whether it's a parent or anyone, you bury it, you take it really deeply, you bury it, you embed it into your subconscious, and it becomes part of your programming. So yes, by having a highly critical parent that programmed you to that you're not good enough unless you do this, you do not deserve to play games unless you get a perfect score on this exam or whatever. This teaches you that to be a perfectionist. Or you even had overprotective parents. Do not indulge in anything risky, don't do anything risky, don't do this, don't do that, because you cannot control every aspect of it. Don't go on the streets because you don't know and never know what could happen. Don't do this because it might not turn out as you think it will, because you cannot control all aspects. You cannot control how people are going to think about you. You cannot control how successful a business idea might turn out. And so that in turn just made you internalize it and procrastinate whenever it came to dealing with such a situation later in life. And you'd rather just stay in bed all day than go out and take that risk. Or start working on your business because you don't know how the market is going to react. If people are going to buy this product. And so the first thing that you should do to actually stop procrastinating is to take back control from it, is to give it less value, is to take the value you have put into that thing you're trying to procrastinate, is to make peace with the idea that what if it does not turn out as I thought it would? What if it turns out nothing like I imagined it to be? It's not a problem. Life is about failures and success. Matter of fact, no one has ever found success before failing multiple times. So you taking that control back, you taking that value, and you set your expectations wherever they want to fall, wherever they freely just fall. Don't set ridiculous expectations that are going to overwhelm you. It needs to be a perfect. Filming your first video has to be perfect. It has to be from this angle, it has to have this lighting, it has to include all of these aspects, all of these topics. And then when you do not meet this aspect, when you do not meet this expectation, you just crumble and stay in bed, and you get, it's better to not even think about your ideas that deeply. Do not overthink your business idea. Just start working on it and ideas are going to flow. Because when you overthink something, you have all of these expectations. You're setting all of these expectations in your head. And once you start working on it, if it does not meet those expectations, you start getting that brain clutter. And everything suddenly just stops making sense. It's better to just let your intuition flow and create through that intuition. Because we all have that intuition. If you got that business idea, if it was inspired within you, then it means that if you take the first step, you're going to get a clear vision of the next step. So it's better to not just overthink anything and start working on it. That is taking value back, understanding that it's not life-threatening. It's not threatening in any way if you fail, if it does not come out the way you expected from the first trial. That it's okay to try again, over and over again. And that if you just trust your intuition, it's going to work out. Another thing that you could do is to go into a meditative state and go back to where it stems from, to where it's all coming from. Hug that inner child, love that inner child, accept the inner child, live through what you've been through that might have caused you to be a perfectionist and controlling and overly obsessed with the outcome. And make peace with it in the past and in the future and in the present ultimately, because the subconscious always functions in the present. So if you make peace with it in the past, you would have made peace with it in the present. And that would help you to actually deal with it. That would give you the power back over it. And it won't be a controlling aspect. You won't even be controlled by anything such as procrastination. It will not be there if you remove the root causes to it. Now, the second way that you could deal with procrastination is by organization. And that's very important because, think about a messy situation and how hard it could be for you to deal with it. Imagine this, for an example, if you had to study for an exam from 10 different sources rather than just from one source, how you would perceive each option, how overwhelming each option is going to be. Because when you have 10 sources to study for your exam, you're thinking, oh my god, I have to go back to that textbook, I have to go back to this notebook, I have to go to read this paper, I have to read this research paper. In contrast to just summarizing everything in one notepad and knowing, and when you know that you only have to go back to this one notepad to study for your exam, it's going to be much easier, it's going to feel much lighter, and it will just flow very easily and smoothly. And that's what you need to do if you have this brain clutter, if you have ideas and thoughts flowing all over in your head, messing up the place, messing up the organization. You just write them down. Write a script for what you're trying to do. Script it out, journal your thoughts. If it's too much more than you can handle, just journal everything. Keep a notebook, a notepad next to you, and just whenever you find yourself going through such thoughts, start writing them down, whatever they might be. And now you have an outline, you have a summary. You could go back and know that I've documented everything. Now you're not worrying that you are missing on some ideas, that you're missing out on some thoughts. That what if I don't do it as I thought about it? Now it's all written down. Then now it's organized. And even organize your workspace. Organize whatever aspect that has to do with whatever you're procrastinating with, because that all matters. Studies show that even just a desk, your work desk, your workspace being messy, I don't know the percentage, but it's much, the efficiency of your work is several times improved when you have a clear desk, an organized desk, in contrast to a messy one. And the third way to deal with procrastination, the third way to heal this aspect of procrastination, is to do it when you feel like doing it. And that's very important. Hear me out on this one, because I'm not telling you to just procrastinate forever until you feel like actually doing it. Because even if we are procrastinators, even if you are a procrastinator by nature, sometimes, some parts of some days, you would get this surge of energy and you would feel willing to actually start working on whatever you're procrastinating. You would feel willing, excited, and motivated to go and work on that thing. But what we often do is, because we've got that surge energy and we are down because we're procrastinating, and we're not meeting our standards, we're not meeting our expectations, so we're feeling down in general. And when we get this surge of energy, we start investing it in something else. We are in the mood to hang out with friends maybe, or we're in the mood to binge watch that series we're missing on, or play that new game, or whatever. So instead of you using that energy to actually work on whatever you're procrastinating, you say, okay, what if I just use it to do these things and then go back to whatever I'm procrastinating? That's a no. It's never gonna be the same, and you're going to feel even more regretful, and you're going to feel even more bad, and you're gonna beat yourself more after it has passed and you went back to your original inspiration and it did not feel the same. And I have a whole video about this, about how to be conservative with your energy, and even another video about how to avoid about how to avoid burnout by just obsessing on your passion or whatever you're trying to create in your life, but rather also making your coping mechanism an addition to your momentum towards what you are trying to create. So you could feel free to go back and watch them. That's all I have to say about procrastination. And remember, less is more. And that has to do with the expectation point about taking back control. It's not about how much more you can add to something. It's not about how much value you can put into something. It's just about a nice, good balance, about being yourself and just pouring yourself out into that thing, rather than just trying to logic your way or artificially add things into that idea you're dealing with. And when you believe in less is more, then you are taking back control. You're conserving more of that energy that you're investing in whatever you're working on in yourself, and that's going to help you stop procrastinating. Finally, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with anyone you think might need to hear this. Thank you for tuning in to another video by AF's Conscious Frequency.